Before Instagram, even before Facebook became the default social layer of the internet, another company had already found the formula. It had profiles before personal branding became normal. It had musicians building audiences before the creator economy had a name. It had comments, photos, friends, status, drama, discovery, and a strange kind of digital self-expression that made a web page feel like a private room open to the public. For a few years, Myspace did not look like a failed experiment. It looked like the future had arrived early. And that is what makes the story important. Myspace was not a weak idea. It was one of the strongest ideas of the early social internet. The question is not why people cared. The question is how a company that had youth culture, music culture, advertisers, and one of the biggest audiences online could lose the center of the internet so quickly. Myspace launched in 2003 as a social networking site. At its simplest, it let users create profiles, add friends, post photos, leave public comments, and customize their pages. The business made money mainly through advertising. The more people visited, the more pages they loaded, and the more valuable the site became to marketers trying to reach young internet users. But Myspace was different from a normal website because the users were not just consuming content. They were making the product. A profile was not only a profile, it was identity. People changed backgrounds, added music, arranged their friends, wrote strange bios, and made the page feel like a performance. It was messy, but that mess was part of the appeal. On Myspace, the internet did not feel clean and corporate. It felt personal, emotional, unfinished, and alive. That was the original insight. People did not only want information online, they wanted to be seen online. For young users, that was powerful. For musicians, it was even more powerful. Before streaming platforms became the center of music discovery, Myspace gave artists a direct line to fans. A band could upload songs, announce shows, post updates, collect friends, and build a following without waiting for radio, MTV, or a record label to approve them. For unsigned artists, this was not a cute feature. It was distribution. That made Myspace more than a social network. It became a cultural marketplace. Fans came for friends and music. Artists came for attention. The more artists joined, the more fans had a reason to return. The more fans returned, the more valuable the platform became for artists. This was a real engine. The company also benefited from timing. Broadband was growing. Young people were spending more of their lives online. Traditional media companies could see that attention was moving away from television, magazines, and radio, but many of them did not know how to capture it. So when News Corp bought Intermix Media, the parent company connected to Myspace, in 2005 for about $580 million, the decision looked reasonable inside the environment of the time. From the outside, it is easy to laugh at old media buying a social network. But in 2005, Myspace had something traditional media desperately wanted: youth attention at internet scale. News Corp owned newspapers, television, film, and entertainment assets. Myspace looked like a bridge into the next advertising market. If audiences were moving online, buying one of the places where they were already gathering made strategic sense. The acquisition also sent a signal. Myspace was no longer just a chaotic youth platform. It was now a media asset with corporate backing, sales teams, and the ambition to turn culture into revenue. At first, the numbers seemed to validate that bet. In 2006, Google agreed to pay News Corp at least $900 million over several years to provide search and advertising across Myspace and other Fox Interactive media properties. For News Corp, this was huge. The company had bought Myspace for $580 million, and now a single advertising partnership appeared to justify the entire digital strategy. Inside that moment, the logic was not irrational. Myspace had massive traffic. Google wanted to place ads where attention was growing. News Corp wanted proof that social networking could become a serious business. Everyone involved was responding to real signals. But the strength of the model also started to create its weakness. Myspace was being valued as traffic. The business became more dependent on page views, ad placements, and commercial inventory. In simple terms, the site needed people to keep clicking around so ads could keep being sold. That worked as long as users felt the product was worth returning to. The problem was that Myspace's greatest advantage was also hard to control. Customization made users feel ownership, but it also made the site inconsistent. Pages could be slow, cluttered, and visually chaotic. User-generated content made the platform feel alive, but it also made it harder for big brands to know where their ads would appear. The site had culture, but culture is not the same as clean infrastructure. At small scale, chaos can feel authentic. At massive scale, it becomes operational debt. And while Myspace was trying to turn its enormous audience into a reliable advertising machine, Facebook was building something different. Facebook was not as expressive at first. It was cleaner, more standardized, and more controlled. That could make it feel less exciting than Myspace, but it also made it easier to understand, easier to navigate, and easier to scale. Real identity gave Facebook a different kind of trust. The product felt less like decorating a page and more like maintaining a social map. This mattered because the social networking market was changing. Users were no longer only asking, "Where can I express myself?" They were asking, "Where is everyone? Where is the easiest place to stay connected? Where does my real social life happen?" That shift damaged Myspace because its culture was built around personal pages, music, and self-expression, while Facebook was becoming the infrastructure of relationships. By 2008, Facebook had overtaken Myspace globally. In 2009, it passed Myspace in US unique visitors. That was the point where the story changed. Myspace was not just facing a competitor anymore. It was losing default status. For a social network, default status is everything. People do not want to maintain 5 versions of their social identity. They go where the network is strongest. Once the new friend requests, photos, events, and conversations move somewhere else, the old platform loses gravity. That decline hit the business model directly. Because Myspace depended heavily on advertising, falling traffic was not just an image problem, it changed the economics. Fewer users meant fewer page views. Fewer page views meant weaker ad inventory. Weaker inventory made big revenue targets harder to hit. And once the company had organized itself around monetizing huge traffic, every drop in attention created pressure. The company tried to reposition around entertainment and music. On paper, that made sense. Music had always been one of Myspace's strongest assets. If Facebook was winning the general social graph, maybe Myspace could become the platform for artists, fans, celebrities, and entertainment discovery. Again, the strategy was not absurd. Myspace had credibility in music. It had artist pages. It had years of cultural memory. It had a brand associated with discovery in a way Facebook did not. But a repositioning strategy cannot fully repair a weakened core product. If users no longer see a platform as their daily social home, music alone has to work much harder. And the music world itself was changing. YouTube, streaming services, and later social platforms would give artists new ways to reach fans. Myspace still had an asset, but it no longer controlled the center of distribution. The machine that once compounded in Myspace's favor began compounding against it. More users moved to Facebook. That made Facebook more useful. As Facebook became more useful, more users moved there. Artists and brands follow attention, so they also had less reason to rely on Myspace. The decline was not one dramatic collapse. It was a slow transfer of social gravity. By 2011, News Corp sold Myspace to Specific Media, with Justin Timberlake involved in the buyer group. The reported price was about $35 million. The same asset bought for $580 million had become a distressed property in just 6 years. That sale made the failure easy to summarize, but the simple version misses the real lesson. Myspace did not fail because the original idea was bad. It failed after proving several ideas that became central to the modern internet. It proved that identity could be a product. It proved that users would build value for a platform if the platform gave them tools for self-expression. It proved that musicians and creators could use social networks as direct distribution. It proved that attention from culture could become a massive advertising opportunity. But it also proved something more uncomfortable. A platform can discover the future and still lose it if the business model starts extracting value faster than the product is improving. Myspace had an audience, but Facebook built a stronger system for keeping one. Myspace had culture, but culture became harder to defend when the product felt slow, cluttered, and less central to everyday life. MySpace had artists, but it did not turn that advantage into durable control over music distribution. The tragedy of MySpace as a business is not that it never found product market fit. It found it early. The problem was that it treated cultural attention as an asset that could be monetized like media inventory, while the market was turning social identity into infrastructure. What survived was almost everything MySpace helped popularize. Creator pages survived, personal branding survived, direct artist-to-fan promotion survived, public social status survived. Profile-based identity survived. The idea that a platform could become the stage for culture survived. MySpace lost the empire, but many of its ideas became the foundation other empires built on. That is the final lesson. Being early to culture is powerful, but it is not enough. A social platform has to protect the reason people gather before it harvests the value of their attention. Because once the audience starts feeling like inventory, the next platform does not need to invent a better culture. It only needs to offer a better home for it.